Thank you very much. And here is Fredrik Sundaeus from Västra Götaland region, and I'm real estate manager for the Sahlgrenska University Hospitals, part of the organization Västfastigheter, Real Estate West. And I'm sided here with Ulrika Wallander from the Sahlgrenska University Hospital, and she's resource planning manager. A little bit about where we are. As we said, we are in Sweden, in the region of Västra Götaland, which is located to the west of Sweden. And the region itself is divided in 49 municipalities with 1.7 million inhabitants. And the main city is Gothenburg, which is about a fourth of the population, a third to a fourth. And it's one of the three biggest regions in Sweden. There are in total about 20 to 21 regions. In the region as such, there are 18 hospitals, and the region is a political organization with the regional parliament, and these 18 hospitals are organized under 5 political committees, just to grasp the content, so to say. During this pandemic that we still are in, the Sahlgrenska University has treated over 2,000 patients with COVID-19. And in ICU, there were a peak in the beginning of May of 52 patients. Also some other numbers, 1,300 employees were very rapidly trained and retrained to work with directly with the COVID-19 care. Of course, this put a lot of stress on the hospital organization as such, and even the also real estate organization. And just to give you some more background, that as said before, the Sahlgrenska University Hospital is Sweden's largest hospital, and actually consists of 5 hospital sites in Gothenburg, and has a total of 17,000 employees. Västfastigheter, the real estate organization, are responsible for the property facility investment project management, and we are totally in the region 600 employees. As this is a political organization, there is also an interesting organization and line of command, so to say, which start up at the regional board with the crisis management board, through a number of different teams and special management, out to each committee or regional company which had its own crisis management. And the focus on this crisis management organization was the intensive care sites, material planning and drug planning, intensive care equipment, travel planning, and planned care and supply of staff. And the basis in the Sahlgrenska University has been the epidemic plan that was adapted and also changed during time when this occurred. We quickly, when we started this work in March, when it took off, so to say, there was a lot of very local initiatives, in the hospital and along our staff. So we quickly realized that we need to get some kind of agile organization between the hospital and the real estate management. And I would say quickly we set up a structure with very agile meetings and implementation of changes of the hospital. If we look on what we did in practice for the hospital, we one thing that was very early put in place was the triage of patient at the entrance. All in all, we had an infection clinic and 9 emergency care clinics where we put up these triages. The solution was rather simple and very straightforward. It was basically made by using containers or tents, and the main solution was actually containers, which was quite rather robust. Also focusing on electricity and gas and ventilation was part of this. Since we changed the logistic of the hospitals, signage was a very important thing, because you had traffic that was running normal routes that suddenly couldn't do this. So that information part was very important. As said before, all the 5 hospitals closed its entries, and to be able to enter the hospital, you had to pass an entrance host, and where you checked for visible symptoms, and if you were symptom-free, you were admitted into the hospital. And one consequence of this, as we as a real estate organization saw, was of course that all the commercial shops, etc., with inside did suffer or still suffer a lot of this business loss, so to say, which is perhaps in the content not so important, but it's important for the operators, of course. In the operations at the premises, what we did was that we created quarantine receptions and departments in the hospitals. We did screens for regular and infections side by side in several locations. Ventilations adjustment, also very important. Overpressure, under pressure, neutral pressure, and oxygen availability, also a very big focus point and complicated issue in some places. We also created more local storage for the care people, so that they didn't have to access medical goods and had it very close to avoid too much movements in the hospital. Reduced planned activities in the care and hospital, and we closed departments, and we increased mortuary places, and for that reason we used external refrigerated containers placed at the hospitals where needed. How did we then change in the operation in the premises? And intensive care units was of course the main challenge, and physically we created in 3 of the 5 hospitals 90 new intensive care units, in addition to the 59 that are already permanently placed at the Sahlgrenska University. The focus and the objective was to place the intensive care units in as large rooms as possible in the hospitals, with the target of 8 patients in each room where it was possible. And for this reason, we used pre and post units and bed halls. This required a lot of oxygen piping for the increased need of oxygen to the patients, and also power was there was a bigger power need, electrical power need, and ventilations. At one of the hospital, the East Hospital, we also put in a field hospital. Picture of some reason called the Crown. So there was actually two field hospitals, one with intensive care units with 36 intensive care places, and also for another field hospitals with normal care units, 42. And as the result was actually that the intensive care field hospital was used for patients, but never the care field hospital. And it was used during the peak part of the pandemic here that we had. This picture here is a good example of the agile handling of to try to find solutions. This is a staff sampling, which actually a little hut for bicycles in normal days, but it was upgraded to be able to take samples of the staff and to be able to give the response within 24 hours and to get people back on duty, so to say. Other COVID-19 actions that we looked upon, crew was of course big question, even if it not part of the real estate part, of course. Quick expansion of lab analysis equipment and installation. We had to adjust the ambulance transport and roadblocks. We had to change the flow. The Red Cross also put up crisis management tents on the different hospitals for potential of for patients and the relatives to them to be able to have find comfort if needed. We also looked into a lot of other potential measures at the hospitals and had plans to even increase the ICU places, doubling that, but that was never needed. And there were also some other pre-studies for different actions at the hospitals. And of course, as we were part of the region, there was a lot of interactions with the other part of the regions for additional ICU places. What was the toughest challenges? Staff and crew, of course. Training, how to train the staff to adapt with the ICU and COVID-19 care, and to relocate staff from their normal duties into these needs. Ventilation and gas supply, as I think everyone has the same experience, and some medical technical equipment. We also were a bit worried at the time that the piping components for the medical gases would run out. Of course, the whole world was looking for these components. More management thing that we saw was that the crisis management had quite a very short time from decision to execution of adaptation at the hospital. So normally we get an order in Friday afternoon, and it should be finished on Saturday or Monday to alter the different care units. Good example of agile project management, I would say. And then also how to take care of all the rapid knowledge buildup that we had around COVID-19. I mean, we are one part of the region. In the other part of the region, they also learned a lot, but how to communicate and learn from each other. Something to think of the future if we have these kind of quick situations. Success factors, and I think you all have the same experience, but you could get a little bit tearful when you think of all the commitment of everyone. I mean, in the hospital organization, but also in the real estate organization, how devoted people were to solve this. It was enormous to see and to be part of that. Then we also think that what we saw, Ulrika and I, that we quickly, from our part of this pandemic, with the coordination structure between the hospital and real estate, that we got up that quickly in place and very agile to care and took in information of the needs and also put it out to solutions in the hospital. We are, as I said, public funded organizations. Normally financing is a big issue. Here we did not have this question, but we have to take care of it now instead. And easy and quick implementation, partly due to the commitment of the employees. How to go further then? We still are in the situation, of course, even if the volumes are much lower than in spring. We need to find what we see now on year of focus is have more permanent or semi-permanent solutions, and one obvious one is the triage, and you saw our solutions. They are good for the summer half of the year, but not in the winter here in Sweden. We need to have a continued and easy sampling for the staff, and in the premises and in the hospitals that we have make it easy to have to be able to have people to keep their distances. And there is a need to continue to have extended capacity with the mortuary. And by these words, we would like to say thank you, folks, and that's all. And if you have any questions, please feel free.
Thank you so much. Really fascinating presentation. I've been keeping an eye on some of the questions that have come through. We don't, as you know, it's quite a tight schedule that we've got. So I'm going to try and sum up a couple of those questions in one, if I may. You mentioned some of the effects on staff, some of the training. Someone asked a question about that, whether the training is going to continue into the future. So staff are going to keep those multidisciplinary skills that they may have developed. And I'm just wondering, how have staff reacted to that? And I'm thinking both of the clinical staff, but also the non-clinical, the staff who work in estates and work with the facilities and may have had to work differently. How have they reacted, and will they continue with the same behaviours in future?
I turn myself to Ulrika, who is closer to the. Oh. Yes, hold on. That there will be a continued education and training of the staff who has been with this multi-purpose or multi-skills knowledge. And I would say in the real estate, of course, we need to consolidate the knowledge that we build up within the region, but also within Sweden, between the regions. Because there are a lot of experiences, and we will look into the future and how to convert this for crisis management of different kinds, not only a virus pandemic, but there is also other risks that has increased, not even medical risks, but other risks.
Yes.
So to say, yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good point, I think, to end on, and I hope we can continue to collaborate and share those experiences with you. Thank you very much for your presentation. Thanks.
Thank you.